How can I respond to a CEO asking me to terminate an employee for reasons I disagree with? I am managing a technical team and a woman in QA has gotten engaged to one of my male developers. The CEO phoned to ask me to terminate the woman working in QA, providing 2 months of salary required for legal termination. As this termination is considered as arbitrary termination and illegal in our law, because her fiancé is a hard-working professional developer. I do not agree that she has done anything meriting her being fired, and we have no written policy against getting engaged, marrying other employees within the company. I feel strongly enough about this that I am willing to leave my job for the sake of justice and to take the right action. How can I get the CEO to change his mind about this decision? Update: I have told him clearly that I am totally against micromanagement. And it is my responsibility to manage my team, and nobody is allowed to even contact any member of my team directly. I know I was super tough, but this made him retreating and withdraw his request smiley face. ... Who knows, he might be looking for a replacement for me now, but I feel that I did what my conscience and ethics have ordered me to do. Laughing face.
It's not a universal standard that related employees should not work together, but it is a very common standard, and with good reasons behind it. Even if the couple treat each other entirely professionally, there will always be the suspicion of favoritism. But there are degrees of problem here. If neither is in a supervisory role over the other, it's less of a problem. Usually the standard includes people in a relationship, so if the firing was going to happen, it probably should have happened before. If you've been given a direct order, then you are in a very difficult situation. However, if the company culture allows for a little pushback, I would maybe recommend some alternative approaches. Point out to the CEO that if the company arbitrarily and suddenly fires one of the couple, it is highly likely that the other one will quit too. Then you will lose both of them. The effect on the morale of the rest of the team will be nothing but bad in any case.
Subscribe to the channel to listen to more topical issues and how to handle them. Become smarter with us.
If the company is big enough, suggest that one of the couple is moved to a different place in the organization so they don't work together, and especially so that one doesn't report to the other. That way you keep 2 good workers and there is no suggestion of favoritism. If that is not possible, see if you can bring the couple into the discussion. State the problem, and see if they have an alternative way of solving it. Maybe one of them was intending to quit anyway. Maybe they were planning a baby and one was going to become a stay-at-home parent. Don't ask about that directly. Or maybe, now that they see the problem, one is prepared to go and look for another job. The situation isn't a problem immediately, just over the long term, so if it takes months to be resold, it won't hurt the company. And it is going to be much better for the company to solve this amicably, rather than dictatorially. However, don't have that conversation without getting your CEO's okay first.
First of all, your unease with your CEO's request is admirable. I am of the opinion that he is acting unethically, and support your decision to resist this. However, a person willing to fire someone over a personal matter such as this, would be very quick to turn their power elsewhere, like you. Now, at work your first action should be to cover your butt, then the company's butt, then any other butts you see fit. So how can you help the QA, while protecting yourself and the company? Unfortunately, you haven't stated where you work, which means we don't know the exact labor laws where you are, but I'd wager neither you or the CEO are aware of this either. State very clearly you need the CEO to get it in writing why you want the employee fired, and ask if there are other options, such as redeployment within the company, or even just a declaration of a conflict of interest. Often just stating that a conflict exists, and how you will aim to work with impartiality and making this a public document is enough to make the conflict of interest issue disappear. Then, lawyer up. 1. If the CEO still wants to pursue a termination, state very clearly that you think that there might be legal issues for the company. Ignore the fact that you think the CEO is acting unethically. Your job isn't to be his moral compass, it's to protect the company. And firing a female employee for getting married is a good way to get sued and dragged through the media. So just ask, have you cleared this with legal? Are they okay with this decision and have they checked the labor laws? At the end of the day, saying no to the CEO is tough, so don't say no. Stall, delay, muddy the waters with legalese. Do everything you can to make sure this is 100% above board, because it very likely isn't, and being made aware of that will make the CEO look elsewhere. You'll protect the company, you'll protect your star-crossed lovers, and you might even come out looking good by looking out for the company. 1. By lawyer up. I mean engage your company's legal and HR departments. Stall, ask for everything in writing, in triplicate, yell objection whenever anyone asks you anything. Getting an actual, external lawyer is probably not a great idea.
It certainly is not a general policy for all companies around the world. The last company I worked for, a startup with 20 employees, the CEO had his wife working as an executive assistant. But it is a policy at some companies. I have worked for companies that had a rule that spouses could not work at all for the company, others where spouses could not work at the same location, and others where spouses could not work in the same department. But in each case, this should be a rule that is either in the company handbook or a written rule that is made clear before a person is hired. It should not be applied retroactively. Furthermore, these 2 people are currently engaged, not yet married. It should not apply to them until they are actually married. I doubt if the company in question actually has a written rule prohibiting fiancés from working in the same company. I have never run into that. Note, this situation doesn't just apply to spouses, but any family members. I once worked at a company where the father and daughter were working at the same location. She was an intern during summer break from college.
Some people are willing to just follow directions regardless of whether or not these directions are ethical or in good taste. However, since you're considering resignation as a possible reaction to this matter, I don't think it will sit well with you to just comply. If you do fire this person, you risk damaging your conscience, and that can be worse than any punishment a petty tyrant CEO can deliver. You absolutely should tell the CEO that he is making a mistake and give him an opportunity to reconsider or perhaps work out some alternative compromise. If he persists, then you should tell him to do it himself and be ready to resign or be fired, or at best you'll need to start updating the resume.
The CEO makes decisions based on the information he is working with. One statement here is that the fiancé is a hardworking professional. As a programmer, chances are that he is hardworking not so much because of economic pressure but rather because of work ethics and identification with company and product. Fire his fiancé, and it's a good bet that this will not improve his work morale. He would be well advised to look for a different employer even if he does not find employment at the same company as his fiancé. Your job is to manage employee relations, and you look like you are willing to quit over this. Obviously, you are not left in a situation of doing your job if the CEO does decisions like that over your head. So basically, we are talking about having 3 persons stop working productively for the company in order to satisfy a rule that is nowhere to be found apart from the CEO's head. In the extreme case, it might boil down to you having to choose between doing your job and keeping your job. Not just for you, but effectively also for the programmer in question. For better or worse, if you take your job seriously, it would be better to make the CEO aware of the scope his decision means for the personnel. It clearly does not stop at the woman he wants to see fired. I am not saying this is going to work out well, but I don't see that sticking your head in the sand is going to work out well for you either. I'd start by trying to schedule a one-on-one talk with the CEO so that there is no loss of face involved for any change in course. Good luck.
I know of companies where couples or close relatives are not allowed to work together with good reasons, for example at a bank, where there is lots of money to be stolen and 2 people working together can get around security much easier than 1. Still no restriction against couples working for the same employer. In the case of a software developer and a QA, seriously, what does the CEO expect? That she doesn't report bugs that her husband is responsible for? That's plain stupid. Obviously not something you should tell the CEO to his face, but it is. As always, the advice: don't quit about this. If you want to quit about it, find a new job first, then quit. Don't use quitting as a threat. That CEO is stupid and doesn't care for any employees, as he has demonstrated, so he won't care about you. The best you can do is to tell him that this dick move, don't use the word dick when you tell him, will be very bad for the morale of all employees, and that you will most likely lose the other half of the couple as well soon. You could suggest that instead of firing the fiancé, you could ask her to find a new job, with a generous amount of time for that. It's still stupid, but the consequences for the company will be much less bad. You could suggest that instead of you firing that person, which you totally disagree with, the CEO should personally come down and do the evil deed, face to face. There's a chance that he wimps out. There's a chance that it costs you your job, if you were willing to quit over it.
I would suggest arranging a meeting between everyone involved, the CEO, the developer, the QA person and yourself, with the goal of resolving the situation without anyone leaving. First off, this isn't a universal custom. Although there are legitimate concerns in some cases, I wouldn't want my internal auditor to be married to the accountant, for instance. This particular case doesn't seem to raise a conflict of interest to me. Secondly, if this is an official policy, and you aren't firing them both, you need to be careful of discrimination lawsuits. Finally, I'm not sure it's a good idea to give the CEO an ultimatum in this meeting, but if the meeting doesn't come to a successful conclusion, I think you should let the couple know your plans, whether that is to simply let the CEO do his own dirty work, or to quit if he fires one or both of them. Letting them know that someone at the company cares is perhaps the last thing you can do for both them and the company. Whatever you do, and however it comes out, good luck.
Do it. Several people already mentioned that it is common to have official or unofficial guidelines against colleagues becoming partners. And in general this is for good reasons, regardless of how applicable the reasons are to this specific situation. If no action is taken now, later a couple might form that would be very problematic and should be stopped. But of course they cannot be stopped because that would easily be viewed as unfair and discriminating, given that this couple was allowed to go on. So, considering that there may be some, yet unexposed, reasons for stopping this workplace relationship, and that it seems to be only consistent with how other colleagues will be treated, it may actually be the right thing to do. But do it properly. That being said, letting this person go is a bit different than letting someone else go, as you don't want to upset the partner too much. As such, I would try to part in a decent way and try to show that you wish her the best. Perhaps a bit more money, a bit more time, or a glowing recommendation when she applies somewhere else can soothe the pain.
What would you answer to this question? Please write under this video.